Good morning, 93.3 listeners. If you're listening on the Real Talk Radio app, we are thankful that you are joining in and you are listening to Unfiltered with Pastor Jason Gaszak. That is correct. You heard me right. I am a pastor out in St. Clair, Missouri. There are many of you that have already been listening to my show weekly, but there might be somebody new today that just happened to skip through the dial and hear my voice, or maybe you're listening to the person previously, or maybe somebody just encouraged you to, hey, you need to go listen to Unfiltered. I'm not sure where you are, but I am glad that you are joining me this morning. Remember that I have two broadcast shows. This one, which is our kind of the main broadcast, 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, and then they rebroadcast this same exact show on Sunday at 8 a.m. So maybe you know somebody that might like what I'm talking about. Tag them in on my Facebook page. Follow me on Facebook. Follow my YouTube page, which I'm still working on, by the way. I'm just now getting into this social media thing because I originally hate social media. I just think it's a bunch of fake news anyway. I mean, fake book is what I call it, but I understand it's a form of communication and sharing videos or sharing information that people want to get out there. So I would encourage you to go follow my Facebook page, follow me on YouTube, download the Real Talk Radio app and chime in on the radio app. Or better yet, if you really want to, you can text me personally at 314-924-4215. Again, that's 314-924-4215. Put it in your top 10 list, put it in your speed dial, whatever you want to do. You can put it on there, right on there, Unfiltered with Pastor Jason, or you can just put Unfiltered so you know it's me. Text me, whatever you want. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, tell me a topic that you'd like for me to talk about. It's been a while since somebody has actually chimed in to give me a topic to talk about. So today's show, I have quite a bit of things. And as you can hear, my voice is a lot better than last week. I still have some work to do. I've had lots of meetings. I'm doing a lot of staff evaluations right now, so I'll have lots of conversations through the week. So my voice still hasn't completely healed, but I am so much better than last week. But I have a lot of things that I want to talk about today. I'm going to talk a little bit about here in a minute about Mel Gibson starting another film with Passion of the Christ sequel. I'm super excited about that. I'm also going to be talking about an article where it talks about transgender men can get pregnant. I got to tell you, I'm fired up about that. So I don't know. I'm going to let you make the call, but I have a feeling you're going to want to listen to that. I'm also going to obviously do This Day in History. And of course, in the third segment, I'm going to be talking about a meat and potatoes. That's what I call my meat and potatoes segment, which is strictly giving you the meat and potatoes of a particular topic. And so this week, I want to talk about how Christians handle persecution, or how do we stand up against the government or authority when the Bible clearly speaks in Romans that we are to obey authority. And it all came from an article that I read this week about how a man who was shopping in Mall of America up in Minnesota was asked to either remove his shirt or to leave the mall because his shirt was offensive to other people. And I'm going to talk about what that shirt says. I'm going to ask, what would you do? And I'm going to share what I think. And we're just kind of walk through that. So that's going to happen. Third segment here. We're going to talk about Christian persecution. So to get this show started today, I'm going to talk about this Mel Gibson movie, which is the sequel to Passion of the Christ. I'm sure many of you have watched the Passion of the Christ from Mel Gibson, which I watch every single year right before Easter. As a matter of fact, I try to do it on Good Friday. That's the day I watch it. I kind of get in my zone. Back when I had a movie room, or a theater room, I called it, in my old house. I would go down there and I'd watch this thing, and I would just, engulf myself into this movie, really thinking about what Jesus Christ did for me and the brutal beating that he went through for me and, of course, for everyone else in this world. And it just helps me remember. But this one is obviously, let me just kind of read. It says Mel Gibson will begin filming the much-anticipated sequel to his 2004 blockbuster, The Passion of the Christ, according to this new report. It says that a late spring production is currently being eyed with Jim Caviezel, who is set to return to the role of Jesus. I'm excited that they're not changing the role. I think Jim Caviezel did an amazing job with it. But, it's been ruminating. It says the sequel's been ruminating in development for around 10 years. And Gibson, he's been hard at work on this screenplay with this new movie called Resurrection. I think that's pretty cool. Resurrection. And it would focus on the 24 hours encompassing Jesus' passion and the events that occurred 3 days between his crucifixion and the resurrection. Now, I don't know if you really understand this or not, but this is going to be, I can't wait to see what he actually portrays, what those 3 days are. 3 days from the death and the resurrection. What happened in those 3 days? And if you read the Bible, it talks about Jesus actually going down to hell and fighting. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what Mel Gibson comes up with. But this is going to be one that you are most definitely going to want to watch. And I'm trying to see here if it doesn't really give me anything of when they think the movie will be out. I was trying to see here. I'm not seeing anything in this article at all of when that movie would be out, but I would guess, oh yeah, right here it is. It says the new film is scheduled for a 2024 release. So I'm guessing if I had to be a guessing man, it would probably happen right before Easter, of course, in 2024. That is my guess. We'll see if I'm right. This is all being recorded. And so you'll know, but that's just my guess. That's kind of the way it was last time, and I really think it's probably going to be that way this time. Now, you may be out there and you may think, well, I'm not a religious person. I don't really go to church, and hey, that's okay. I think watching these movies might help you have a little bit better understanding of who Jesus was and what he went through because he loved us. A lot of people talk about that. So that's coming up. And next year, and Mel Gibson is obviously working on that. Now, we got to take a break here in just a moment. So before we do, though, I want to give a plug on our Roots Cafe out in St. Clair, Missouri. This is a full-blown cafe open Monday through Saturday, and it's only open on Sunday to the patrons that attend church that day, but it's open Monday through Saturday from 7 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. And we are a full-blown cafe we have crepes. So we have savory crepes. We have dessert crepes. We also have paninis. We have biscuits and gravy. So we have paninis for breakfast. We have paninis for lunch. We have soup. We have salad. We have pastry items. And of course, we have all the possible coffee lattes and frappuccinos and different drinks and available. And we also have soda, tea, lemonade, you name it, we have it. And I want you to come try it out. And if you come into the cafe and you say that you heard that this advertisement on the Unfiltered radio show, or you just heard the advertisement on the radio show, you will get 20% off your entire meal for that day. Well, you heard me correctly, 20% off. That's better than what most places would ever give you because we want you coming out and trying it. Plus, we want to see how many people are actually listening to the radio show that would try out the Roots Cafe, but it's called Roots Cafe out in St. Clair, Missouri. You can Google it. You can Google map it, 235 North Service Road West in St. Clair, Missouri, right there on the highway. You can't miss it. It's like you're going to the church. And it has its own entrance. It's got its own bathrooms. It's got everything. It's a cool environment, free Wi-Fi for you to make connections. A lot of people ask us, well, what's the point of the cafe? Well, one, we need another business in this town. You got to remember, we were going to open this thing up 2 years ago. Well, 2.5 years ago, I guess. And we decided to wait because of COVID and some other things. But here we are open. And things have been progressing and getting much better. So part of my show is sponsored, obviously, I believe, by Roots Cafe. So get out there and try it out when you're in the area. Tell somebody else about it. Otherwise, we have got to take a short break. But when we come back, I'm going to do a quick this day in history. There's several things that have happened on this day in history, but there's one particular that I want to talk about. And then we're going to go into the transgender men can get pregnant. That's the title of this article. And I got to tell you, I am fired up about this article. And quite frankly, I am just ticked about what our world thinks about this. But however, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here in just a minute. You're listening to Unfiltered on Real Talk 93.3. All right, we are back. Thank you so much for getting back with us today with this topic of this day in history in our second segment. So on January 21st in 2017, so it wasn't too long ago. I want to try to, we could go way back. There's a lot of historic things that have happened many, many years ago. But I want to go back to this day because on January 21st, 2017 was what they called the Women's March. And this happened on the first full day of President Donald Trump's presidency. Hundreds of thousands of people crowd into the U.S. Capitol for the Women's March on Washington, a massive protest in the nation's capital aimed largely at the Trump administration and the threat it represented to reproductive, civil, and human rights. At the same time, more than 3 million people in the cities across the country and around the world held their own simultaneous protest in a global show of support for the resistance movement. It was the largest single-day protest in U.S. history. Now, when I hear that, I think, well, how do they really measure that? How can they really know? I don't know. We really don't know. However, it was obviously a very large turnout. Why? Because they knew that Donald Trump and his administration were going to change some things. There was going to be a change in history. I like it. There's a lot of things that have changed, and I'm very happy for those changes. It says here that during the 2016 campaign, the release of a 2005 recording of Trump commenting in a crude language about how his celebrity status allowed him to force himself on women prompted numerous women to come forward with accusations about his past inappropriate sexual conduct. Trump dismissively called the recording locker room talk and disputed the accuser's claims. I remember when this whole thing went down, and I got to be honest, I 100% disagree with the conversation that he had in the locker room. However, I also know a lot of men that have had that type of conversation in the locker room, so to speak. But for whatever reason, they obviously called him out. And this really did change the course of history when it came to women beginning to stand up, the Me movement, the women's empowerment movement, and all the different things that have taken place even today, which, again, I think some of that stuff is okay, but we got to be very careful, how much, how do I say this? Women's empowerment is good, and I think women should be empowered, no doubt, but there comes a place where women degrade men so much that men look stupid, and I think that's where the difference goes. But this march obviously made a statement. I think people heard them, and I think a lot of people support what they stand for. But that happened in 2017. Another thing this day in history that I saw that nobody really wants to be reminded of is in, let's see, where did it go? I'm trying to find it. Well, I don't know where it went, but it talked about something about COVID happened in 2020 on January 21st. I just don't remember what it was, and we're all trying to forget it anyway, so we'll just forget that. And let's just jump in to the next thing that is on my list, and obviously that is about this article that transgender men can get pregnant. Here's what it said. That's the title. The story is transgender men can get pregnant. Here's what they wish more people understood. And there's pictures of men. Now, they're really not men, and they're not men because we all know the truth that a man cannot get pregnant. But boy, they want you to believe that a transgender man can get pregnant. Why? Because he's a woman originally. He has a reproductive system. Of course he can get pregnant. Ugh. I'm just looking at these pictures of these men and I want to throw up. I literally want to throw up that any person thinks that this is okay. There is something mentally wrong. And you can be mad at me. You can be upset with me. It doesn't mean I don't love them. It doesn't mean that I don't care for them. I do, and I would. But the reality of this is sick and twisted and perverted and crazy and evil. It's unreal what I'm seeing in this article, and it's from Yahoo News. If you want to go look at it yourself, you can, and read this disgusting article that was written about transgender men who are pregnant. And they're frustrated. One of the things they want people to know is that when they would go in to the hospital to get looked at or to look for a doctor, it says that there were many people. It said this Wakefield character, 36 years old, who is transgender, which is a woman. It's a woman wanting to be a man. That's what it is, who uses they, them pronouns, told Yahoo Life that during an emergency room visit, they went in and there were snickers from nurses, as well as doubt and disbelief and lack of knowledge from physicians that are ill-equipped to handle their needs. Well, of course they're ill-equipped, because it's not normal for you to be that way. It's not normal for a guy to be pregnant. Why wouldn't there be somebody snickering behind? Come on. You don't want to be made fun of. You don't want to be called out. You don't want people to talk about you. You don't want people to look at you in a weird way, but yet you're doing weird things. This is what I don't understand about people, is you don't want all the attention on you, but yet you got all the attention on you because of how crazy weird this is. In one instance, it took them an hour and a half for them to get treated because they didn't believe that they were pregnant. Hello? Well, when you look like a man, of course, who's going to believe that? Because it's not the natural thing. It's super uncommon, but they want to make it common. And when you read this article, there's TikTok videos of men, well, they're women that look like men that are over here showing pregnancy results. I'm just so disturbed by this article. I am completely disturbed that there are human beings that actually think that this is okay, and that they're actually trying to make it out that men can get pregnant. You and I both know you are smarter than what people are telling you. You know without a shadow of doubt, there's no confusion, there's nothing else except for the fact that you are in disbelief, that you know that a man cannot get pregnant. It is not possible for a man to be pregnant, and I dare you to challenge me on that. I'm talking about a biological male, not a woman who wants to be a man, not a transgender. I'm talking about a biological male. It cannot happen. Why is this story trying to make it sound like that men can get pregnant? I'm going to tell you why. Because that is what they want you to believe. They are indoctrinating. They are brainwashing you into this evil nonsense. And that is exactly what it is. Evil nonsense. Oh, utterly disgusted at this complete mindset that people have today in our world. And it is out of control, and we need to start standing up against it. And not that we don't care about the person, but we do not agree with the behavior. And I do not agree with what these people are doing and what they think, and it needs to be talked about. We'll be back in just a minute. Well, after that break, I hope you are back. I had to go and take a brief walk for just a minute and cool down, and my blood pressure was through the roof. And I try not to let those topics get the best of me, but I'm telling you, man, there is just something not right. Something not right at all. So, all right, let's switch gears here. You guys enjoying this? Give me a thumbs up somewhere in the emoji in the app. text me a thumbs up emoji. Give me something. Somebody tell me I'm doing all right over here. I mean, if I'm crazy, tell me I'm crazy. I'm just going to not believe it. I am not crazy for thinking what I think. I can tell you that right now. So let's get into this third segment called Meat and Potatoes. And this is all stems from an article that I saw. And I don't remember where I found the article. This one is from Fox News, I believe. And it says, Mall of America security asked man to remove a Jesus Save shirt because it was offending people. What could be so offensive of that? I don't get it. Here you have a black man, an African-American man. All he's doing is shopping in the mall, minding his own business, who is a believer, who has a bright neon shirt that says Jesus Saves on it. And I guess some people, I just don't understand it. But anyway, they were offended that he was wearing the shirt. It's not like he was in there promoting it. It's not like he was in there preaching or anything. He was literally just a patron, like anyone else in the Mall of America in Minnesota, shopping, minding his own business, and somebody was offended at his shirt. And the security guards, here's what they said, quote, "You can take your shirt off and continue your shopping, or you could leave the mall. Those are your only options right now," end quote. And then one of the security guards tells the man, quote, "Jesus is associated with religion and it is offending people. People have been offended," end quote. Well, let me tell you what offends me. What offends me is the fact that you have homosexuals walking around the mall holding hands and showing PDA, or maybe that's just one thing that offends me. I think it's completely disgusting. It's not normal, and it offends me because you do everything you can to take away the way God created a marriage to work between a man and a woman, and you're watering it down with your homosexual lifestyle. That offends me, but you do it in the mall. Do you hear me crying to the security guards about how you're holding hands and walking through the mall and my religious beliefs is completely against what you're doing? You don't hear me crying the blues about you holding hands and showing PDA, or men walking around in midriff tops and dressed like women, transgender. That offends me because now you're taking away my manhood or what a real man is supposed to be. That offends me, but you don't see me again crying to the security guards, crying to the mall and saying, "Hey, this offends me. You need to ask them to leave." No, you have a freedom to live the way you want to live, to love who you want to love, and to dress the way you want to dress. And I'm okay with that. And you should also be the same with somebody walking in with a Jesus Save shirt. I have seen shirts that say F Trump. I have seen people wear hats that say F Biden. What about those? You're going to tell people that offends them and they can't wear them? I mean, what you do for one, you should do for all. But at the end of the day, where is the free speech in this? What happened to free speech for the American people? I am not in agreement if a shirt has a profanity or maybe it's very risque in the aspect of pornography. I'm against that. You're in a family environment. But I'm also offended by people using the F word like it's just another word out in public. I'm offended that when I have children around me and you cuss like a sailor, that offends me because you're not being respectful to the people around you. That's just the stuff I don't understand. It's all one way for you on the left, but as soon as anybody on the right says anything, all of a sudden all the rights people show up and all the lawyers turn up. It's absolutely frustrating that this is even happening in the Mall of America, that this gentleman literally is all he's doing is shopping, and yet being made to take his shirt off because someone in that mall is a wimp and can't handle the fact that there's a shirt that says Jesus Saves. Are you kidding me right now? There needs to be, I'm telling you, I don't even know what to say about it. So what do you do? What do you do? If you're the guy, what do you do? I mean, that's a great question, right? Do you take the shirt off because the authority is telling you to? Do you respect the authority? But then if you respect the authority and you take the shirt off, now you kind of cower down to the fact of your freedom of speech because someone is offended. Where is that someone? Who is that person? Where are they at? You get what I'm saying? So then if you don't take your shirt off, then you're not being Christ-like, and then you're not doing Romans. You're not now respecting the authority that God put in place, which again, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. I think, that we do need to respect the governing authorities, but when it comes against our God-given rights and anything with the fact that our religion, the way the Bible reads, then there's a difference there. And we see this all through the Bible. I mean, we saw Daniel, when the king didn't want Daniel praying, Daniel said, that I cannot do. I am going to pray because that's what I do. And guess what happened to Daniel? There was a consequence for Daniel, right? He went into the lion's den. Well, guess what? He didn't die in the lion's den because God took care of him. It was no different than Paul. Paul wasn't supposed to be preaching the gospel, but he did it anyway. And guess what? There was a consequence for him doing that. He went to prison. There's consequences. There's many, many stories in the Bible where the law said not to do something because it went against what they wanted, and it was, it wasn't their religious belief, but those people said, I can't deny what my God has told me to do, that I'm going to not stop doing that. So what do? Do you remove the shirt? Do you leave the mall? Do you just, tuck your tail and go? Or do you keep the shirt on and just ignore the authority and keep walking through the mall and take your chances? I don't know. What say you? Why don't you respond in an app? Why don't you text me what it is that you think? I mean, here's what I think. If I'm in that position, I'm just going to tell you right now, I would have a very hard time leaving that mall. And I would also have a very hard time taking my shirt off. I would. Because I have a freedom to wear that shirt that is not offensive. There's no vulgar language on there whatsoever. It's literally a Jesus saves. Well, some people would probably say, well, you're disobeying the authority. Maybe so. But do I not have a right to have a religious belief and wear a shirt that has something, on there that says Jesus saves? I mean, you have the right to do your thing and wear what you want to wear. I mean, I'm offended by young girls, wearing spandex pants everywhere and half naked walking through the mall. That offends me. Now, it's your right to wear it, but you don't see me crying the blues. You don't see other people crying the blues about it. They're not making you leave the mall because you're inappropriately dressed when you come to the mall. You should be in the gym when you dress like that, not in a mall, not in a restaurant. So what do? I just want to know. I just don't get it at all. I don't understand it at all. And, I would just tell you this. There would be a massive lawsuit coming to the Mall of America. I could tell you that right now. That man, I would be arrested, and then I would get an attorney, and then I would fight for my right to be able to wear that shirt in the Mall of America. That's exactly what I do. And we need more people standing up against this nonsense that is happening. And what the problem is we have too many weak, wimpy Christians that won't stand up because they say that we are to honor the authority. And I'm about that 100%. Because you get into this whole thing about police officers and rolling down your window and what are your rights and what are your not rights and what should you do, what should you not do. I'm all about authority. I am all about respecting authority. And if a police officer comes to me and says you can't be walking on the sidewalk, then I'm going to, obviously, I'm going to step off the sidewalk. Now, if he's being ridiculous about it, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. Every scenario is different. You can't cookie cutter this scenario. But what I do know is there is nothing wrong with wearing a shirt that says Jesus saves. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you guys know it. You know it. Those security guards, they know it. Those people that say it's offensive know it. They all know it. Gosh. So what do? How do we handle persecution? How do we handle criticism when it comes to these things? What is it that we are supposed to do? Because there's a poll that said Christians are actually facing the worst levels of persecution for their faith since persecution watchdog Open Doors began recording such acts nearly 30 years ago. So this organization called Open Doors, they released and showed that in 50 countries around the globe, Christians are facing record levels of persecution for their beliefs. Why? Because we have this nonsense of this thinking, like these transgender women, transgender men that want to be women. We have this nonsense of thinking that these men that are women want to participate in women's sports. That's nonsense, and they want us to believe that. And we're persecuted because we have a moral compass, and that moral compass is called the Bible. And if you don't believe in the Bible, and if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, then where is your moral compass? What is it that keeps you in track and in line with the morality of this world? I don't understand where that is. And so according to the Religious News Service in 2022, Afghanistan jumped to the top spot on the World Watch list after the Taliban regained control of the country and forced Afghan Christians to flee or go into hiding. So we might not see that type of persecution here in the United States, but trust me, we're seeing it in the Mall of America. We're seeing the persecution of a simple T-shirt that says Jesus saves, that they don't want him to wear it because it's offensive in the Mall of America. It's no different. The reason why it's worse to me is because America is about freedom. America is a place of the land of the free to think the way you want to think and believe the way you want to believe. Say what you want to say, as long as obviously you're not trying to tear somebody's reputation apart. But to be able to do that in America, and now we're being persecuted, now we're being ridiculed, now we're being told that we can't wear a Jesus Save shirt? Are you kidding me? Where are the Christians at that stand up? And let me tell you something. I read some of the comments in here that people said, well, we need to go to that Mall of America and we need to sing worship songs and we need to preach the gospel. No, that is not what you need to do. That's just going to make things worse. That is not the solution. You really think all you're doing is putting fuel on the fire? That is not the answer. The answer is wearing the shirt. The answer is to have a lawyer sue. That's the answer, in my opinion. We need to stand up against these things, and the more times Christians stand up against this nonsense, then the world will finally see, the 1%ers will finally see that we are sick and tired of being bullied by your nonsense, because that's what this is a bunch of nonsense. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are back from the break, and this is the last segment of the day. And yes, I am fired up today with the articles that we've been talking about. And I want to finish and wrap up this show about how Christians are persecuted and what do we do and how do we act, and probably really more importantly, what does it look like when Christians are criticized, and why is it that Christians are criticized? Well, I'll tell you one reason why I think it happens is because people know that we are supposed to turn the other cheek. People know that when the enemy asks you to walk 1 mile, you walk 2. They know that when the enemy wants the shirt off your back, you give him your pants as well. People know that that is the Christian way, and they take advantage of Christians, and Christians, that's just what we're supposed to do. We're just supposed to love, and we're just supposed to, turn the other cheek. And yes, you are to a degree. But there are times when we as Christians are supposed to fight, when we are supposed to stand up, when we are supposed to be the resistance to the tyranny of the government, when we are being bullied by other people that don't believe the way we do. We are not supposed to cower down. We are supposed to stand up and fight. Not with our fists, but we can fight with prayer. And we can fight the fact that we're not going to allow this nonsense, and we're going to say something. We're going to defend ourselves to the point that actually makes a statement, because I believe if Christians would begin to rise up against this nonsense, you would see a shift in our culture. Because right now, the majority of people feel the way I feel right now. I know that. I am certain that the majority of people, not everybody, but the majority of people feel the way I feel right now. Because we are okay if you believe a certain way. We are okay if that's the life that you want to live. Just do not impose your life onto us. Do not make us try to agree with you or believe what you believe. We don't do that. I don't do that. There are some people that do that, but not me, and that's not the way the Christian life is supposed to be. You never want to force anybody to try to believe something. But when it comes to criticism, when it comes to persecution, there's this massive negativity of people and this bitterness that just rolls off their tongue like butter. People are just bitter. They're angry. They're complaining whiners who see everything as bad or wrong. And a few of these people, they enjoy upsetting or hurting people. Because hurt people hurt people. And so when you're hurt and when your life, as a child you did not grow up in a good family home, and I'm not even talking a Christian home for that matter. I think a Christian home is much better, but I know a lot of Christian homes that were completely dysfunctional, and the children grew up and they were a mess. And I also know people that don't know God at all, and they grew up in a great home with structure and morals, and guess what? Their children are great. So it's not necessarily, to me, a Christian home is much better if you do it God's way. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about that when you have somebody who is hurting, they grew up a certain way. Maybe there was abuse physically, emotionally, sexually, psychologically. Then yes, those people are going to grow up, because most people look at counseling as a bad thing. Most people look at counseling like it's the end of the road and you're just whacked out crazy, and so you need to go get some psychological help. When in my world, counseling looks like, hey, we're just jacked up people and we need a little bit of help. So I need a life coach that I can talk to, that can coach me and direct me and give me some good advice on how to live or how to handle my adversities in life. The culture is so messed up. And so these people that are persecutors, these people that are critics, they have these agendas and they're set in their ways. And guess what? They think they are right. They smug this self-righteousness, and they attack anyone who does not fit their rigid view of the world. And guess what? Christians can also be this way. Christians that are rigid and religious and criticize people, it's a dangerous place to be. That's not who Jesus was. I was talking with somebody, and they said this to me, and they said, they were talking with somebody else, and they said, they were around some people that weren't believers. And this person was saying, well, I feel like I judge them and I view them a certain way. And this person had said, listen, why are you judging somebody who doesn't believe the way you believe? Their moral compass is different than ours. And so they're not going to do or say or believe the way we do. And so therefore we can't judge them. We are to love them and care for them where they are. Now, we have a right to think the way we want, and we have a right to stand up for our beliefs when it comes to homosexuality, when it comes to abortion, but it doesn't mean we tear down the person necessarily. It doesn't mean we hate the person necessarily. You should never hate the person. That's a strong word. Hate is such a strong word, and it really shouldn't be in our vocabulary other than that you hate the devil. People are messed up, and people need help. And I get it. People criticize other people. People can be arrogant. They can be judgmental. And unfortunately, some people think that their Christian faith even justifies them judging and condemning others. They don't just criticize. They actually blurt out the garbage out of their mouths, and they look like fools because they're unable to hold their tongue. So please understand that I'm talking about Christians as well that act this way. Just read Proverbs 12:23. It'll tell you everything you need to know when it comes to this. Look at Proverbs 8:2. Look at Proverbs 18:6. There's so many things that we could go to the Bible, the Word of God. Proverbs is the book of wisdom. It helps us live a better life. And yeah, people are going to dislike us, and that's okay. Not everybody likes me, and I'm okay with that. But just like I don't like everybody else, there's people I don't like. It doesn't mean I'm going to be ugly to them. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to love them. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to hang around them. I may not like the way they do things. I may not like the way they talk to their spouse. I may not like the way they treat their kids. I may not like their unreligious views or their religious views. We just may not have anything in common, and that is okay. But I'm not going to criticize them. I'm not going to judge them. Woo! I'm fired up today. We only got a couple minutes left of the show, and I really don't want to end it on a negative. So how do we respond to criticism? Well, the first thing you can do is just admit when you are wrong. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you messed up. There's nothing wrong with having a little humility in your life to let people know, listen, I spoke out of turn, or I spoke about something I wasn't educated on, or I was just fired up about it and I was angry and so I sinned in my anger. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. I mean, just admit when you're wrong. You're not too good to admit that you're wrong. And then I would encourage you to set some boundaries for the people that cross that line and are constantly criticizing you, because it can turn into abuse. and you don't need that in your life. But you can also accept constructive criticism, which I'm not going to get into now, but there is constructive criticism, and then there's destructive criticism. And what I see right now in our world is a lot of destructive criticism, a lot of hate that is being spewed out in this world about other people. And again, let me be super clear, because I've talked about the transgender male who think they can be pregnant, which is really a female. I want to be super clear that I do not hate them, and I do not despise them. I hurt for them, and I am disappointed that they believe this stuff. But I truly care for them and want to see them get the proper help. That's what I would like to see in this world, is for those people who have been traumatized, those people who have felt less than, those people who don't feel valid, those people who have no self-worth, that they get some type of help for whatever that looks like in their life. We need to be a people that cares for all people, but we need to have boundaries. We need to have these guidelines that protect certain culture. So anyway, that's what I think. There's so much to go into. And I'm in the studio by myself, so I don't really have anybody to bounce things off of to keep me in check, but that's just where I'm at. Who knows where we're going to go next week? You know what? Maybe I need to spin it positive next week. Maybe I need to bring something more encouraging next week. I'll think about that. But then again, maybe I'll find another news article that just quite pisses me off, and then I'm just going to talk about it again. Who knows? Bottom line is, that's what Unfiltered is about. For me to be able to come in here and just talk about these topics and talk about them in a way that I feel in an unfiltered way. You're listening to Pastor Jason Gaszak on Unfiltered. You guys have a great weekend, and we will see you guys next time.